So this is our video about the way that Europe is represented in all of the movies that we watched.
Okay, and we're probably going to try to focus on the ideals, not ideals of the time, but like what thing most valued in the time is, because it really helps emphasize the period in which the movie was made.
Yeah, and it really shows how Europe has changed as a society. So the medieval period, for example, there was a lot of emphasis on God and on the church and on this idea of memento mori, remember that you will die.
Yeah, a lot of death. You see that especially in films like The Name of the Rose. It's literally about a bunch of monks, and there's a bunch of death in it.
Mm-hmm.
And The Seventh Seal, death is quite literally a character in The Seventh Seal, so that makes a huge impact in the way the movie is portrayed and what it's about.
Yeah, and the way they showed like the life and death aspect was like also showing the death and then showing the character's reaction to the death, which is also like an important way to emphasize it. Because at the time, obviously, a lot of people were dying, and the people are always like not fully desensitized to it, but like almost. Like they saw a body, like oh, another Tuesday or something. Seeing that.
So much death. There was war, there was plague, there was pestilence, there's the four horsemen of the apocalypse, there's everything.
Horsemen of the apocalypse.
People dying left and right, dropping like flies.
Yeah.
Just simple day in Europe.
I mean, 3/4 of the population
got decimated during the bubonic plague. I feel
2/3 of the population.
That really plays a big role in how these films tackle that topic.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
I think people at the time, death was such a constant in their lives that of course they were going to focus more on what was going to happen to them when they died than when they were alive, you know? Which is hence the sort of emphasis you see on media written in and about this time on heaven and hell and where you're going to end up after you die.
Yeah, a lot of the religiosity aspect also correlates with like stuff about the afterlife, like heaven, hell, purgatory, good deeds, bad deeds,
sin and
good. Well, things like that. Things of that nature.
Virtue and those kinds of things.
Virtue and vice, yeah.
Vice and virtue, thank you. These higher sort of values, like these things that are viewed under God. It was less about the individual and more about what the individual was a part of.
Yeah. Exactly, like the great chain of being.
The great chain of being, yeah.
As a very important topic. It's basically. You want to say it?
No, you can go.
Okay.
You can go.
But it's basically, just a bunch of levels, and the highest level is obviously God. The lowest level is like matter, like rocks and sand and stuff, and then in the middle is humans, and above that is angels, blah blah blah. And below that is animals. So when a film, I feel like there's also like a bunch of animal motifs. Animal transformations in films, and when they show that, it's like the divide between humans and animals is reason. That's what divides us.
We probably should move on, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So not contrasting all that, but like adding to it, it's like the next time period is the Renaissance period, and the example we have is like Romeo and Juliet. And at least in Romeo and Juliet, they focus a lot on the family above like the parents above the kids.
Like the social order.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to the past thing. And so it's supposed to have God at the top. God's put up there, but he's not like as pay attention to it, but that's like the parents make all the rules that they have to follow and stuff.
I feel like the Renaissance is sort of the direct antithesis to everything that was valued in the medieval period, because you came back around to this idea of humanism and like memento vivere, like you will remember that you will live. It's like remember that you are alive. People were putting a lot more emphasis on what was happening now versus what was going to happen later. A lot of emphasis on the arts at the time.
Yeah, carpe diem, seize the day.
Carpe diem, seize the day. And like you were saying earlier, it's kind of like this sort of reworking of the great chain of being to be more of less of a monumental scale, and it's almost more of a social hierarchy kind of idea, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. And then kind of like focusing on Juliet again, it like to show that also like the way that people are trying to, at least Romeo and Juliet are trying to act out of that kind of like it's kind of like a criticism of the time almost. A little bit because it's like of the hierarchy system. I'm trying to like it's hard to explain. So like the kids want to act out because of the pressure put on them by their parents.
Like upholding the family name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they,
And legacy and stuff.
they end up dying at
Yeah.
the end by their own whims, but like
Well,
well,
pretty much
It is driven
100%.
by emotion.
It's
I
driven
feel
by
like.
emotion.
There's also an aspect of not disappointing your family behind it,
Mhm.
because that was really, really
Right.
important.
But again,
Family time is great.
they sort of Romeo and Juliet both are kind of focusing on the now and the oh, I'm in love right now. This is happening right
Yeah.
now. This is my life. This is the meaning of life. This kind of romantic idea, you know, where you didn't see that in media about the medieval period. So what we're seeing here is a broader cultural shift in Europe from the values being placed on higher powers versus the values being placed on ourselves and on humanity.
Mm.
And like you were saying, emotion plays a higher role in this as well.
And then I guess kind of to focus back in like the romance aspect because it comes in later. The romance, the way it plays out to the next, well, for the first time period, which was the like medieval period, to the Renaissance period, and then 18th, 19th century, it plays like an important role in all these films, more so in the last two. But it's like they're all like kind of evolutions. So like in The Name of the Rose, at least, the romance is like kind of sideline, and it's mostly we see lust, right? Or they just fuck without talking. Like he had like, a few words to her, but he's like did it.
She was like on top of it, and he's like, "Oh, we're doing this, okay."
This is the thing that's happening, I guess.
And then
So he just
and then in Romeo and Juliet, it's like focused on like kind of, I guess like kind of the idea of the connection they have. Well, it's like from what I remember reading it,
Yeah.
they talk obviously a little bit, but it's like very rushed. And like they just want the love, essentially.
It's very much about the lust, you know.
Yeah.
the love overtakes the reason that you
Yeah,
have.
the
So you just
emotion overtakes.
it's like it's fleeting, and it
the reason.
overrides your decision making.
Which at the time,
Your judgment.
reason. This, sorry.
No, I was just saying like it overrides your judgment. That's the word I was looking.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic that they would choose to do this for this particular period because reason was such a big concept in the Renaissance period. Like any sort of media that you see from that period puts a lot of emphasis on reason.
Okay, and then back like to romance again, so we can move on to the 18th, 19th century, I guess. Like the romance is more complex, at least in the version we watch. They probably different versions, but in the version we watched, they focused on like the connection of the two. It's like their initial meeting, the conflicts they have. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but like they give more time with the romance, I guess.
And I think the reason that there was a focus on the fact that the emotion was overtaking the reason in this piece is because people wanted to see that recklessness and that romanticism that that wasn't a major part of society. It was kind of it was freeing, but it was also a critique, as we were saying earlier.
So yeah,
So I guess we could move on to the Victorian era, which is from the early 1800s to 1900s. There is a lot of romanticism,
right?
Emotion.
And again, there's a cultural shift there from the value on just self-expression and humanity. It's this particular sort of self-expression, this particular expression of romance and love and emotion that you saw a little bit of in the Renaissance period, but it was it wasn't as broad as it was in the 19th century, and you're also kind of doing away with that idea of reason being the highest form of
Separation
of thinking, and
between like the classes.
you're kind of, it's more about what you're feeling over like what would be the rational thing to do.
It's kind of like similar to Romeo and Juliet in kind of in that way because, where was I going? Oh, my train of thought just like left. It was no. Okay, you can go. I blinked. I was gonna say something.
Pride and Prejudice was in the Victorian era, right? So, what did Jane Austen mean when she made this lower class woman and this upper class man fall in love? At first, they have to overcome their pride and prejudice.
Like you're seeing,
Like they are in love, but they have to overcome these feelings. So, what actually takes priority?
right,
That's
and
the
the
question.
reasonable thing to do would have been to marry within their own social classes, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the difference that we're seeing between Romeo and Juliet and Pride and Prejudice, because in Romeo and Juliet, well, not the difference, but there's a similarity there between like the social classes playing a major role in the way that their romance is expressed. Except that in the 19th century, you saw the two succeed in ascending, or not ascending, like operating outside of the social castes. Where in Romeo and Juliet, obviously that's a tragedy and it did not work for them.
Yeah, it can kind of reflect that, but like the popularity of these stories over like one time period.
Right.
Because in Pride and Prejudice, I think like the book was like extremely popular. I know it is. Like
Still is.
it still is. I mean, like at
It's
the
a classic.
time.
It's a
I
classic.
know, but at the time, I didn't look into it that
It's
much. Okay,
awesome.
so it was popular. The people yearned for the class struggle. Essentially, the people
yearned for the class
like you know the romance aspect of like the conflict of we can't be together.
So
And that was
The
kind of shown in
forbidden
Romeo.
romance. Yeah, exactly. The forbidden romance aspect.
It's like Romeo and Juliet, but they want to make it happy. Like so, like what could have happened? They're like, we want the
I
happy
want to
version.
reach outside my class, but it's forbidden. What will I ever do?
Whatever shall I do?
It's like people wanted to kind of upgrade their class, and they kind of like the romanticism of it. Like we find a man or a woman who's higher class, and we can fall in love.
I think the people in Europe in the 19th century, I think, like you were saying, they were craving they were yearning for the romance of it all. And it was a very high emotion time, and this was the period in which the novel became a major player in the literary scene. So, given that it's a relatively new art form, you see it develop in a way that reflects exactly what people wanted to see at the time. So you're seeing this sort of epically scaled story of love and romance and emotion. And I think it's really telling of what people were yearning for at the time.
Yeah, also it's much more accessible to the masses, I feel like, because with novels came like mass production, mass printing, and the average Joe will read a novel and be like, I do yearn for a man of higher caliber. Would really love that. Like this is my fantasy.
And again, it was written in prose, which at the time like the way that people were used to hearing information in a literary sense, prose was easier to digest than, say, Shakespearean, like early modern English.
And it was a play, so it's probably harder to see. And because I think they posted like the script, it would have been that time, right? It was so
They wouldn't have. No.
so it's probably harder to access too.
Like, and I think when you watch a play, there's definitely a degree of separation between you and the actors, where when you're reading a book, you can really like absorb those characters' emotions and what they're feeling and their thought processes, where in plays it's a little bit harder to do that. Like obviously you can do it with asides to the audience, but books you really get to get inside of somebody's psyche in a way that you can't do in drama.
Yeah, you make your own interpretation of the characters, the story. I mean, it's all up to the reader, and that's what makes prose so inviting for a lot of people, like novels.
People wanted to see themselves
Yeah,
reflected in the works of the time.
and I feel like this could be a great segue into more representation of the lower class instead of
Yeah.
like always it being high class romances
Right.
or things of that nature.
Because Romeo and Juliet, you had Romeo and Juliet were both from the higher social class, where Pride and Prejudice, you have Elizabeth, who is very much not from the higher social class. So I think that's a good segue, yeah, into the way that there was a shift over time into focusing more on the lower class and the proletariat.
Mhm. And this is kind of not really off topic, but like I realized like looking at all of the film like the eras wrote down, there's a few instances of like us going back to certain things, like the focus. So like it kind of like at least from the films we watched. Obviously I haven't watched all the films for this time period, but like when you get to avant garde, they focus on like the future and stuff, and then just like leave the romance
You mean
aspect.
there are like some themes that will always be prevalent in
Yeah,
human nature,
but like I'm
love
saying
and-
like in general in the films we watched, like it kind of goes from like focusing on certain things and then all of a sudden like focusing on the class struggle again later on.
I think
yeah.
I think Europe, because of how prevalent the caste system was
Mhm.
for a very, very long time, and how prevalent, how much revolution and how much struggle there was surrounding like rights for the lower class. The lower classes, like if you look at the Industrial Revolution, the development of workers' unions, and obviously the Russian Revolution, you see a lot of fighting for proletariat rights as well. Prior to World War I, you see a lot of that. So I think because it was such a prevalent struggle, I think it's always going to be kind of at the core of European cinema.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does, because a lot of that encompasses struggles of what, as you said, the working class. That's been a huge topic all throughout European history. I mean, you'll find, I think you'll find in pretty much every European film if you look hard enough. It is there. It is.
Sounds like a
If you
threat.
read between the lines, it is there.
Sounds like a threat.
But like, yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I don't know why I said it like that. But you will find
It is there. It's there.
It's there and it's looking right back at you.
Right. So I think there's this ingrained concept of romanticism and the class struggle, and the way that those two things can almost kind of like coalesce thematically.
Yeah, they're kind of interconnected in a way.
Which really shows us what exactly Europe values as a country.
As Europe isn't a country, you mean?
Or, sorry, continent. I know that, I promise.
Just
I misspoke.
that was a
We're gonna
Freudian
move
slip.
on. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna do.
Okay,
I misspoke.
so I guess like the next few films we watched is kind of focused more on the future and like what the future can potentially hold.
Right. So this was like, well, I think we should talk about the Russian films for a while too, because that was a major sort of
Yeah,
movement.
they can kind of be not really combined, but like
Well, yeah. But the Soviet film era and the avant-garde movement,
Like German expressionism.
German
talking?
expressionism.
I feel like that
90s.
came a lot later though. But in the beginning of the 20th century,
Yeah,
there was a lot of new techniques, new groundbreaking
yeah.
ideas.
You saw a lot of experimentation
Yeah.
with the traditional form, and I think that was really a huge cultural shift in Europe.
Yeah,
People started to value, because we were talking before, like it existed strictly in a caste system for like 500 something years. where by the beginning of the 20th century, you were seeing people want to break out of the norms, and people wanted to begin to value expressionism and like the individual in a way that operated outside of traditional social roles. So if you look at if you look at Russian cinema,
Like Man with a Movie Camera,
And then
Battleship Potemkin by Vertov. Yeah. But those kinds of Russian films kind of encapsulate the new era of Europeanness. Like it's just a bunch of new things in one package.
Yeah, they try to kind of focus on like the common people and how they react to things or how they like just are in daily life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
especially through like the filming techniques. Like if you looked at, obviously this was earlier, but if you talk about like Dr. Caligari or Nosferatu, there's a lot of innovation there in the way that the story is told, and no one had really seen this kind of horror genre before. So people at this time were, I think people at the time were kind of, it was a, people were afraid because this was post World War One. Something had just happened that had upended like the entire way that people viewed life in a way that hadn't happened since probably the plague.
Yeah. It's a huge event. People's expectations were completely blown out of the water.
Yes, and it was a huge time for social change. Like an insane number of people, I can't remember what exactly, were killed during World War One, and you saw people kind of look at the way that their society was running and recalibrate. So again, if you look at like Man with a Movie Camera or Potemkin, you see a lot of emphasis on the proletariat class and kind of fighting for workers' rights and the rights of the everyday person.
Yeah, I feel like a large part of that is because a lot of civilian lives were lost between in both wars, but also we're talking about World War One, so yeah. And a lot of soldiers were just, normal run of the mill people. They were drafted into the war unwillingly most of the time, by the way. That's mostly what conscription is, but that's Battleship Potemkin and Man with Movie Camera displays that like the lives of working class people, how they're suffering, how they're living, all that.
There's a lot of emphasis on the fear. Like some of them try to go against the fear and show like we can overcome this. Like in Battleship, like they kind of some people feared revolution, but like once it happened, they were fighting with it and working to it. And like, but some movies, like Ivan's Childhood, were like they worked with it with like the fear of like how war affects people. And then it's like this is bad though because kids are dying. Like, they kind of worked with the fear instead of tried to work against the fear.
During both wars, I mean, people were just watching their children die, and that's going to have a huge effect on how you view life and society. And I think in particularly Russian cinema, there's a lot of emphasis on that. But I think Europe as a whole was also really focused on sort of the why of the social system and kind of trying to work around this huge gaping hole that was left in their society after the two world wars.
Yeah, there is a lot. Obviously love and death are symbolic, and they're in a lot of films. But I feel like that makes a comeback somehow, a huge comeback in a huge way in war cinema, because obviously a bunch of people, a lot of people are dying during war. But I feel like because of that, that makes people want to make the most out of their lives because they don't know when they're going to live the next day. So that also brings in love. Like
People, I think,
to just make the most of it.
I think people wanted to focus a lot on yeah, like life as a whole, and kind of glorified just living each day as it came, as you see in like Kino Eye in Man with a Movie Camera. That's obviously an emphasis on the everyday person and just life as it's happening during the Soviet era.
Yeah, like Ashes and Diamonds, I would say obviously there is love, there's death, but uh, the main point is that war affects people and it's a horrible thing, and we still have that human ambition, that what's it called, the abominable human spirit. That's the word. That we can just,
Indomitable?
even through a whole bunch of suffering, we can still look to the bright side and be like,
Yeah.
we're gonna make it.
It's this what you see a lot of in these films that were made either prior to or like during the wars. You see this overall feeling of sort of like things are drab, things are dreary, they're tense, but you're also seeing this undeniable idea of hope and of resistance and of fighting, that you don't really see in any media before or after this. But
It's like they're all trying to look towards the future and hoping
right,
better. That's kind of like in the trip to the moon, they wanted to know like how they go to the moon and stuff like that.
yeah,
And then but like in other films, it's shown different ways. It's shown like they can have revolutions, they can try their hardest to live, to just like be themselves while they're in this situation.
and I think this was really telling for the way that people were feeling post-war. It was dreary, and people were trying to rebuild, but they were also really starting to look toward the future and kind of to a new way of functioning in society that you didn't see before. Like the class struggle continues to be a huge theme in European cinema, and I think it continues to be a heavy value today too. Actually,
Yeah, just ingrained in European society.
yeah, because they were so devastated by this period of war and conflict and insecurity. When, sorry.
Wait. Speaking of class struggles and their relation to even topics like today, like that, there is still a class struggle. I mean, that's obvious.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just people aren't like they're focusing on it, but they're not like it's not like an everyday thought. Like, because we're not in war, not currently
Yeah, it's
in like
not.
a war. Like we're in
It's like
Europe
passive.
yeah, like, we're not like
It's a passive thought.
yeah. It's like
in the
oh
background.
It continues to be in the collective psyche.
yeah. It's just like not like an everyday thing. Or, like can't like what's gonna happen today? Is there gonna be another big thing happening? Well, we are, but like it's not like a wake up in the morning and be like, oh, there's a bomb going off. Like we're not well, like right next to us. Like
Well, but that's America.
Well, that
America.
That's America.
We are
Kind
right
of
Look
now.
at
other
Ukraine. Look at
countries.
Russia.
I know. I'm saying, like in world wars, the whole world was thinking about it. I guess.
And I think, well,
I
they
guess.
still are.
but like it's
But anyway,
I mean, back then, maybe to a more
it was more prevalent.
extent.
Absolutely. But it's still kind of echoing.
Like you can see how it's still tracking to today. Like we still have this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all these films about gaining hope and what the future might hold for us, and it's still like almost the same. It's like where is hope? Is hope is all hope all lost?
that's why like telling to this generation we're in, like we're kind of almost numb to it. Because like at the time they were like living it, they were in fear, and now like when we think of the wars going on, we're just like, oh, another thing happening, right? What's another bad thing that's gonna happen? We're kind of all tired of it. At the time, it's like not a newer thing, but like
I think people were also tired of it then too.
Yeah, but they were
which is
like-
where the idea of hope.
they were just like more out about that fear. Like they weren't like
Yeah,
hiding it under like a oh well, I'll be fine. Like
I think. But if you look at like the succeeding film movements following the Soviet
War
film
era
movement, the war era of films, you see this idea of class struggle being more prominent in the psyche. If you look at like The Bicycle Thief, there's a lot more focus on
Italian neorealism.
Italian neorealism. Yeah, but you see a lot of focus on the whole movie is this one man who had fought to get a job and then finally got a job and lost his bicycle. And so now he has to go find his bicycle because he doesn't have a job if he doesn't go find his bicycle. So you see a lot of focus on the everyday person, the working class, versus kind of the upper class that doesn't have those concerns.
He's literally put in a perpetual cycle. And this is perpetuated by the upper class. And the upper class just leans back and watches, and they're like, yeah, this is entertaining. I don't have to do anything.
Like,
but the working class has to work their butt off and every single day and ultimately get to nowhere, as we see in Bicycle Thief, because spoiler alert, he doesn't get his bike back.
you watch him tear himself apart and tear his relationships, like the part where he hits his son, you watch his family relationship fall apart because he needs a job and he needs to survive, but he can't.
Yeah, I feel like it's also a
Succeed
testament
like that.
to the human condition of being greedy, because we love material possessions, we love material wealth. That affects all classes, by the way, but
And
some classes have an advantage over others.
particularly post-war, you do see a lot of emphasis on material possession too. Like if you're talking about obviously The Bicycle Thief, but then if you're talking about like the French New Wave movement.
Oh yeah. Right, Nouvelle Vague. Like in
Nouvelle
Monocle,
Vague.
something, however it's pronounced. But in Monocle, they're just, it's a bunch of consumerism, it's a bunch of frivolous spending. Like, it's just kind of useless in a way.
And it's a direct critique of the class system and the class divide. But you also see this undeniable human desire for things that are grand, even if they're frivolous or inconvenient or like unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. When you were talking about like the ending of the movie where like he doesn't get his bike back, that reminded me the ending of these movies also like is a tell they like the feelings of at the time.
It's realistic, yeah.
Yeah, he's like in
It's not every movie's a happy ending.
yeah, like
obviously.
Romeo and Juliet, they die at the end, but in Pride and Prejudice, they like live happily together. In like Ivan's Childhood, he dies at the end, and then in Bicycle Thief, he doesn't get his bicycle back.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how you see this shift from, I think post-war, the whole idea of romanticism kind of fizzled out. People stopped wanting, like, you didn't see failure or success on a grand scale. You just saw, like, okay, Romeo and Juliet die at the end, but that's like grand. It's this whole grandiose mutual suicide because, well, not mutual, but
a misinterpreted suicide.
Miscommunication.
Yeah, it's a very bad.
It's a very bad miscommunication, but it's grand. This whole idea of Romeo drinking the poison and collapsing over her tomb dead, where Bicycle Thief, he just doesn't get his bike back. It's not this grand thing. It's very quiet. It's just, oh, he doesn't have a bicycle. He doesn't have a job,
It's like things like this happen all the time, every place, all the time. But in a movie form, it draws your attention because it's just so realistic in a way. It's like you can almost see yourself in his position.
Yeah. And even Ivan's death and Ivan's childhood is it's fairly quiet because you don't actually see him die on screen. You just see a missive that he died. So I think post-war, people stopped romanticizing these ideas of life and death, and they just it was just this idea of, okay, how do I go day to day? How do I put one foot in front of the other? And failure and success began to align themselves along those lines as well, which is what we see in Bicycle Thief and Mon Oncle.
Mm-hmm. This conversation is great, but I feel like we're like at 30 minutes. I feel like we should move on to the last.
We can move on. Yeah.
I feel like we've talked to this point. We're good. So the next movie was the I can't read it. I don't know how to say it.
La movida madrileña. Well, you're the one with the Spanish major.
I'm not.
I mean, minor.
Okay, whatever.
What?
But here,
This is kind of like a jump. Not really a jump, but like a kind of happier.
I would say this is the result of all the dreariness that has been in European film past then. It all culminated to this point where it's just like the tipping scale, like, and it all like it. That this is what the movement is about. It's all like about self-expression.
it's
Taboo subjects.
it's
things like that.
rediscovering how to the grandeur of life and the kind of the spice of life. Like this, I'm sorry.
I love
I'm
that
sorry.
phrase.
I'm so sorry. This is post-Soviet. It's post-dictatorship. You saw a reclamation of vibrancy and color and fun and self-expression and acceptance, which was a kind of a direct contrast to movies in new German cinema like Ali Fury to Soul, where you see a lot of ostracization, lack of acceptance. It's very quiet. It's very dreary.
Yeah.
Here in like Almodovar's films, you see a lot of it's this very loud celebration of queerness, of things that previously would not have been considered.
He's also like the founding father of campiness, campiness is quite hard to describe, but it's like when a film isn't too popular, but it still has a cult following. It's kind of it's low budget in a way, but it's still charming somehow. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you watch his film, you would know what
You're doing away with this dreary idea of just like dragging through life that you were seeing post-war, and you're moving back into this idea of, okay, we're alive, we're gonna enjoy it while we're here, and we're gonna be unapologetic about it.
Yeah, it almost went from like I'm just gonna try to live, like just to survive. Like I'm probably keep my head down to I'm living the way I want to.
Yes. And you saw a broader social change in Europe where people started accepting these things that previously would not have been accepted. Queerness and self-expression and sexual expression.
Gender identity.
Oh,
wait, there's also a prevalence of drug use. I think I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Videos a while ago, but there's this prevalence of drug use it was becoming more widely accepted, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. But I think this is very telling for over time, the way that Europe's values shifted. Because obviously it started out very, very, very conservative, and over the years you kind of saw it shift into not so conservative, back to conservative, social caste, away with the social hierarchy, back to the social hierarchy, and then you kind of saw a complete dissipation of that by the end of.
Yeah, I would say even today in contemporary times, Europe is very accepting of a bunch of different cultures, a bunch of different identities.
Yes.
They are very lenient about that, which the same can't be said for a lot of other cultures and
Countries.
so that's a good thing. Obviously, Europe has come a long way since its beginnings. Its films, sad films, honestly.
I think through its films, you really can almost see the society mature, if that makes any sense.
Kind of like they're all fighting, or kind of fighting back. A lot of people are fighting back, and that kind of correlates to the girl with dragon tattoo, kind of, because like the girl who was missing, she left because she fought back against her father and brother.
Yeah.
So like basically the whole movie is because one person fought back,
and
people are fighting to try to find her.
And she's also like outside of what would traditionally have been accepted. So you see this broader acceptance as well, because she's this brilliant researcher. I think Europe as a whole, throughout its films, you see a lot of emphasis on emotion, on introspection, revolution, um, critiques of the social caste system, and it really, these are the things that have continued to endure as European values, you know?
I think that also kind of connects the last two movies. It's kind of like the female lens almost.
Like the female perspective.
Yeah.
Because like in at least on my mother, it's like all about the mother, right? It's like focused
Yeah.
on her struggles.
And it's her friendship with
the one guy, multiple people. I don't remember their names. I can't remember.
she has this kind of sisterly relationship with I can't remember her name.
Is it the ginger?
No, well that too.
There's like two. There's
But
too many
the
people.
first it starts with an A, but I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But there's this
getting beat up.
yeah, there's this focus on female relationships that you don't see in a lot of other films.
And then in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it was kind of like this girl was like the victims in the murders were women who acted out of the Bible, like were accused of sins from the Bible. So like they got killed for maybe not even doing something. And then this one girl who did escape, the sister, she escaped. I think became like, I don't know what she became, something like powerful.
There's this really interesting thing where Europe went from like condemning people based on the Bible to critiquing the idea of condemning somebody based on the Bible, the sin. So it's really interesting to kind of watch the values mature and watch the social lens shift through the films.
It's kind of like very vaguely, kind of similar to like the first topic we focus on, just like God above all. But it's more about
But yeah, it flips it on its
flipping
head.
on its head.
Saying,
Yeah.
hey,
It creates this
Bible's
very
not it.
unique counterculture, which I believe is counterculture is kind of the European counterculture would kind of be similar to American counterculture in the 80s and whatever, with music and whatever. But through film, they portray this counterculture, and it's really prevalent, and you can just see it just flips the narrative on its back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a timeline that like eventually you hit the point where it
kind of flips itself over. But like there are a few like enduring themes that I think we've done a fairly decent job highlighting over the course of this that continue to be prevalent in European cinema, and it's a very interesting window into what is culturally important to Europe and what has been culturally important to Europe throughout the centuries.
Yeah. It's almost like a circle.
Yeah, it's like
another. It's like a circle, but like once we hit a certain point, we're like, okay, we're going to start a new circle almost.
Yeah, it's like things are coming back around in a slightly different way depending on what's important to the society at the time.
Yeah, this could be a testament to the transient nature of the human soul. Like we go through we're not just robotic. We're robotic. We don't go through one emotion and the other and then never come back to them. We shift through these emotions, and that's shown. Emotions and values. That's shown in a lot of European cinema.
I think European cinema is unique in the fact that it does focus so much on emotional journeys, where if you look at American cinema, we don't focus on emotion, we focus on action and reaction, where European cinema is definitely more introspective and emotional, and I think it's really telling for European culture as a whole.
Yeah, like even the way they film the movies, like the silent shots they have, and like the long panning shots that kind of just sit with you because they're so.
There's like so much personality in each shot. It's kind of
American movies, at least like the majority of American movies, it's like, what had happened next? Okay, we're here, we're moving. here next in
And
like 5 minutes.
And American movies get like all the most famous actors and put them into this jumbled script, and it's like it's the worst thing you've ever seen.
And we don't embrace the ambiguity of anything. We
It's
don't
like-
leave any room for thought. We just tell you
Yeah, we spoon
exactly.
feed. We freaking spoon feed the reader.
Spoon feed, yes.
And you don't like it's the director's job to put all these hints and Easter eggs for the reader to figure out, because that's the fun of it. But if you're just spoon feeding the reader, then we're like, what's the point?
It's like
What's the point of
movie-
watching a movie? Then?
It's like movies that are like, this character's sad because they, I don't know,
Their mom died
their
in a
mom
car
died
crash.
in a
Like,
car
okay,
crash, and her emotions, she's sad in the movie, then she meets something, and it's like, quick, and that's what's like, it's like, if it had narrators, it'd be like, we start with a woman, like, it's like, they narrate the whole thing in like 5 minutes, and you're like, it's like, you can predict it.
It's like, this is a woman. This woman wants this.
They took a play script and just kept like, put it on.
It's terrible. European cinema, you'd like get a shot of the lady, and then you'd get a shot of like an empty room or something, and you'd have to
Yeah.
guess a little bit.
yeah, montage. That's montage.
Montage, yeah.
Montage is extremely important. I feel like American cinema just doesn't
I think
do
it's
that to a good extent.
I think it's so interesting how the most famous, like some of the most popular American films are like superhero films or action films, because they're
Don't get me
so there's not much substance there. Where every European film that I've seen, at least, there's substance. There's something to tear apart there.
Substance.
They're
And
also very different. Like,
They're
most
very diverse.
American films, like, if you saw one horror movie, you saw like 10
You've
of them,
seen all
right?
of them, yeah.
Oh, wait, don't attack horror, okay? Horror.
Well, I'm
I-
such a
Okay,
first
okay,
genre,
okay,
and
okay.
Blood love.
We don't want to alienate one of our comrades here.
Okay.
No, but like the amount of sequels that a film gets, and then the sequel is obviously so terrible, and you're like, what? Why did they do this? Because it's a cash grab most of the time.
Yeah.
They just want to ride on the coattails of the first originator.
If you've seen one action film, you've seen all of them. If you've seen one comedy film, you've seen all of them. If you've seen one drama film, you've seen all
Yeah,
of
it's
them.
like they keep milking this formula.
It's formulaic, where
But European films, they just do their own thing, you know.
European art is experimental, and I think it really shows the difference in cultural values between Americans and Europeans, and the way that Europeans view film as an art form, where Americans view film as a cash grab, essentially.
Yeah, like, kind of an example of it is like Megamind. That was my favorite movie as a kid. It was so good. And like, once they've like done 10 superhero movies, they're like, okay, what are we moving on to? Like, oh, this movie's really popular. Like, now people like are
We'll do a
appreciating
remake.
it. We're gonna do it. Make
Yeah,
a
they're
second
doing
movie.
soulless
It's so
remakes.
bad.
Soulless remakes with the color grading. I don't know if you know what Disney's been doing, but they've been doing a bunch of live action remakes, and they're the worst things to ever grace this God-given earth.
I don't think grace is the right word. I think it's cursed.
Yeah, they curse the earth. It's just
It's like they move on.
it's just
from
gray.
it.
It's
Yeah.
quite literally gray and brown and muddy, and it's like,
Like,
what happened to vibrancy? What happened to emotion? What happened to personality?
but if you look at a remake like say All Quiet on the Western Front, 2021, that's a German film, and there's so much soul to it.
Yeah.
There's so much focus on the isolation, the isolation of war, and the horror of war that in American cinema would have been dramatized to the point that it was almost like supernatural.
Yeah, and the trailer would probably show something completely different. And when you watch the film, you're like, well, when did this happen? When did this not happen? It's all for like money, because we live in a capitalist society, right? I just had to bring capitalism into this. But
Hey,
yeah,
I don't
it's
blame
just-
you.
The ghost of capitalism just haunting us all in America. It's
Oh.
just so damning.
I think like European films kind of exemplify this sort of open wound that exists in European society. And I think the way that Europeans view art is very, I think it's very much a result of everything that's happened in Europe over the last 5 centuries, where I think Americans tend to live exclusively in the present.
Yeah. It's like for most remakes that happen in America, it's like, okay, it's gonna be worse than the original. It's gonna be so bad. But like in Europe, when I do a remake, it's probably not gonna be as good as the original, but it's still good.
Like All
Right.
Quiet is
It's
a
like it
great
stands on
movie.
its own. It
Yeah, you
insists
can-
upon itself.
Like even like
It's
our
always
teacher,
nice.
he's like, you can watch either one. Like you can pick. They're both
They're
good.
both good.
But like in America, if you're like watch the remake of Snow White, you're like, no,
Actually,
It's just no.
You see like one good movie in 20 bad movies, you
Mhm.
know, and it's just
The ratio's very off.
it shows this kind of care that Europeans take with the way that things are represented on a screen that Americans don't have.
yeah, it's like Europe tries really hard to like recreate like
The emotion of it.
emotions of the original, and America's like, we can just make another one. We want more money, and if it doesn't do good, they're like, okay, let's try again. Release that movie.
And they don't care about consumer complaints or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just
They're like,
We
oh, we
don't
didn't
care
like that we changed the character. We're gonna do it again. Different character.
Europeans, I feel like, are more okay with their cinema making their viewers uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Because they know that that resonates with the culture as a whole, because they've spent so long in this sort of like trying to heal like post-war, post-Soviet, post-dictatorship eras, where America
well,
doesn't put as much value.
I feel like something that a genre that's immune to this is horror, obviously, because
Horror is sort of
American horror is derived from European horror. Italian giallos were probably one of the founding points of horror, like slashers. That's where slashers originate from. Americans take a lot of inspiration from that horror as a whole. Like it's just great. It's to make you uncomfortable and scared. So there's a lot of liberty there. But I think the approach is pretty. It is quite different, but it's so similar in a way. I don't know.
horror is one of those genres that's always going to resonate emotionally, and the emotional impact of the piece is always going to be the most important in any society. Where European films, the emotion is always the most important part, and it's really interesting to see the differences there. We probably should. We should probably wrap this up.
I think we
Well,
already kind of did.
when-
I think
about
we
a
did.
film?
Yeah.
When a film gets when a book or something like that gets a film adaptation, like I don't I want to throw this author under the bus because I hate her, Colleen Hoover.
Oh,
Her
don't even
films
get
are
me
just so
started.
bad.
Her
They're
books
just-
are terrible.
Her books are terrible, but to make them a film and
Is
to just
also
to just like rid indie authors of that type of
representation.
representation and fame, it's
Terrible.
like, why do we make the wrong people famous?
I know,
Is
I
it
like-
because she's a white woman? I don't know.
I think that probably helps, if I had to take a
Probably.
guess.
I haven't even read any of her books, but like the only things I've heard are bad things. But she keeps making more. She keeps making another
Because they
film right now.
sell. They
Yeah, they are.
sell with
They're
her
making a new one.
particular demographic.
It's like what they find an audience, and they say, "Okay, this is the audience. I'm going to cater to this audience." The
It's the
audience like is
same
very
awful
loud.
formula, and it's so unless you really love it.
It's like the silent majority.
It's
like
so
is really
soulless.
loud. Like you want to hear like a movie, you're like, I love this movie. Hate people associated with it. Like I love reading. Hate people who
associated with Colleen Hoover.
you should never. You should
It's
never.
like it's usually
associate.
like people who read books are like love literature. Like there's a small majority who
Ew.
like her books, but they're just very loud. They're like, this is the pinnacle of romance. But anyways, we should probably
Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for your time.
I hope that was very interesting.
Thank you for listening to our very chaotic conversation
for almost an hour.
almost an hour. We hope that it did something worthwhile.
I hope it made you have some revelations.
Yeah, we really hope it gave you an epiphany.
That's good.
About the yearning for
About-
Flash.
No, I don't think that's quite what.
I don't think that's quite what we said, but okay.
That's what
On
we
that note, have a great time watching this, I guess.
That's fun.